Ambassador Alogu, the issue of extradition, you talked about, and indeed the president talked about it, the retrieval, locating, tracing, and retrieval of some of the looted funds from the country. What that brings to mind the issue of the extradition treaty Nigeria has with the U.S., which came into effect in 2003. But then, what is it exactly that needs to be renegotiated in terms of that treaty? And how about the Binational Commission? There are reports that there's need to re-energize it. How would that work out in all?
Well, these are details that high officials would go into and know what there is, if any, and then plug them in. But, you know, you started off with extradition treaty, or rather return of funds that, well, let's see the word, looted. There used to be a mutual assistance understanding between some of the countries where the funds are. I remember there was something like that with Switzerland, which of course helped us in getting certain funds back. We have a similar arrangement with the U.S. At least under that, the legal forms would have been created. Some of the challenges in returning funds is that you have to know where the funds are. In some countries, some of these funds went to, were taken out surreptitiously, domained in bank accounts that may not be public. But perhaps with the U.S., it's a little bit more easy in the sense that they have a lot more, there's a lot more openness in intelligence and information on where and who has what funds. So one hopes that we will deal with the challenge of tracking funds. That's one. Of course, when you track it, then you begin to settle the long legal process of returning it, identifying whether these are actually irregular funds or looted funds, or the owners will just have to justify that the ownership before then find the final the hurdle of returning.
But a quick one here, Ambassador, if I may come in. Do you think any country that has that kind of agreement would want to release that amount of money in its system? Would they be hesitant in any way to release that amount of money that's maybe in its system in terms of investment and all that?
Well, understandably, these monies are doing some work for the economy, but of course there are other pressures. If you decide that a certain fund, you don't want to release it, then you'll become part of the global challenge of money laundering, of supporting corruption, and so on. This is why a visit at the summit level and a commitment by a president that he will support a process of returning or identifying returning funds is the kickstarter to the process, and that is very important. We cannot say there are people who wouldn't like it, but they just have to do that.
So how then do you suggest that we keep this conversation going? Because you've already said that it's not going to happen overnight. We have to keep up pressure on the United States. How do we do that?
Well, we've had experience in this regard, so this is not the first time. And well, the government will just go back to what we did before, see whether it was the best way, and compare what we can do now. There are officials that do that, the diplomatic missions, the Office of the NSA, the Ministry of Attorney General, Ministry of Justice, they all combine together in this process. It is something that, of course, with the commitment at the level of the presidency, the presidential authority, they will not they will not go slow in that regard, because the president will be asking what is holding this. It's always difficult when a president is not committed to returning funds. Then you don't hear anything about it. But when he is, then all the paraphernalias of government, they know what to do, and they just have to do it because they will be required to give results, and there is a process to follow. We can't, I can't at this moment give you all the tracks because there are quite so many, but it's enough to say that our president wants it. The president of the U.S. has committed himself to support that process, and we're actually hearing other leaders. There was something about the German government also pledging support. So with all those pledges, becomes our responsibility, because it's in our interest to push it. So we'll continue pushing it, and if there is any deliberate slowness at any level, the system kicks in again to remind all the stakeholders, all the parties concerned, that you promised to do that. It's not happening, and they stuck here. So that's what I expect to see happening immediately, immediately after the president's presidential visit.
Okay, well, this other point, I mean, how does this work? Because if they pledged or say they were going to assist us militarily, and then this Lee Act pops up, because, I mean, it wasn't just today. That happened also with the previous administration. So on what basis, then, did they say that they were going to sell arms to Nigeria?
Well, you remember that in the last administration there was a similar situation, but it was keyed into some logic argument about unsatisfactory human rights records, especially in dealing with the territories where the action was going on. Well, we didn't like it. I remember I was either here, one of us just talking about it. We felt that the U.S. was not playing fair, that they would not on one hand say that well, there's a they support the global war against terrorism, and then in Nigeria they come with a caveat about human rights. So I think that this time that commitment has been made again at the level of the president, at the summit level. We will watch and see how it pans out. If there are laws that will impede them in doing what they say they want to do, then it is their responsibility to jiggle the laws and make sure that the outcomes become what is important, necessary, because terrorism is a global challenge, and you cannot talk with tongue in cheek or, well, pussyfoot about it. The U.S. knows that this time, when Nigeria wants a level of seriousness, commitment, and deliverable on it. Otherwise, we will still feel that we are not getting the support we need.
All right, that's where we'll have to let it go today. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us today.
Thank you.
All right, so there you have Ambassador Joseph Ayalogo, former permanent representative to UN in Geneva and former ambassador to Switzerland. We'll be back after the break. Don't go away.